And in the beginning, it works really well, and you cover up each other's lacks. It's only later on when you start evolving and that person begins to change where you feel we don't get along anymore. You see that couples married for 30 years, we just don't get along anymore. But what happened for the last 30 years? What's actually happened is that one of these people in the relationship, or both, have moved on from where they were. And so that person no longer completes that lack within them. And so we then become disconnected. We don't feel like we like them anymore. And so there's a lot of things that don't seem to make sense in relationships. And I feel that what we need to do is to undertake a journey into ourselves first, to understand our limitations, our lacks, our fears, and not project that onto the other person before we get involved with another person. Now, if you are with another person, then it's very important for you to continue the work to get to know yourself better. And once you know yourself, then you can see in the other the person that they actually are, rather than the insecurities that you hide in yourself and they've been covering up. Because when the love is lost and the honeymoon phase is over, those things start becoming evidently clear that they irritate you because of this or that and the other. And so when relationship starts going sour, because we know each other so intimately, we can get under each other's skins more than any other person. Any other person can say that thing, but when that person says it, it really hurts. Why is that? Because you know, and this is tough for you to accept, you know that they are right about the thing in you that you have a problem with yourself, and they pick on it and they open up that wound. Now, if you didn't have a wound within you to pick, there could be no reason to get upset. But because you know you haven't dealt with it and they keep on reminding you of it, it starts to hurt, right? And when ego takes the forefront in a relationship, then it's about pulling cheap punches, right? And seeing how we can get the better, like, showing why the other person is more wrong than you are and why you're better than the other one and why you've done your part and they haven't. But there's so many other things that are going on behind the surface. There is no connection to the person that they are. They don't know themselves. They don't know themselves intimately. They don't know themselves, how to love themselves. They don't know how to care for themselves. They don't even have self-worth or self-esteem, and they look for this in another person, which is a fatal mistake. You notice how in the honeymoon phase, everything seems to be fine, everything's working out, there don't seem to be any problems, the person is who they say they are. And when I'm talking about the honeymoon phase, is not necessarily in marriage, it could be in the time when you decided to be committed to a person. And so in the beginning, everything is great. And then what happens after that? You're like, oh, I don't know who this person is that I married or who I'm with. I don't recognize them. No, it's because you didn't see that in them. That it was always there. And the only reason you can now see it because it's in you too. And that's the difficult work. The mirror that shines the face upon you, not upon the other person. It's the things that irritate you about others are the things that you have to work on in yourself. And most of us then give them labels and then leave them and say they're horrible people. They go move on to the next relationship, hoping that that person doesn't have the same characteristics. And eventually, person exactly the same as the previous one. So the outward form is different, but the inward form is exactly the same. They still wind you up, right? And there's no recognition of all your limitations. It's all projected out there. They like this, they do that. And then some people, even now, modern day wise people say, oh, yeah, I've done the work. Yeah, I've also got a problem. But you don't realize that it's a fake description of you. You don't know yourself. You don't know yourself intimately. You don't know yourself in detail. And you look for that validation, that esteem, that recognition in another human being. And this applies in work, relationships, business relationships, even your relationship with the children, which is another whole topic that I want to talk about later on, about how we project this onto our children if you are married in a relationship. So in the honeymoon phase, you find there's no great problems. Everything seems to be going fine. You're doing your own thing. They're doing their thing. You're doing things together. There's no big sort of resistance anywhere. You notice things, but you let them slide. You're like, it's not such a big deal. At least they are X, Y, and Z, that they're pretty, that they're handsome, that they're strong, whatever it is, and you overlook. But after a while, because you're no longer distracted by this input of them covering all your lacks, later on, you're sitting there going, I still feel the same about myself. I'm still insecure. You're not saying this actively because most people are living so unconsciously they don't recognize this, that all the demons in their closet and all the dark little spots in their being starts coming out, starts manifesting. And so when that other person that you initially had this amazing time with starts pointing those things out, because they also have an ego, it really starts winding you up. And now you say, I don't recognize that person. It's the same person, and it's also in you. Nothing's actually changed fundamentally. And here's the other vital thing. During the initial stages, you're not so caught up in your heavy problems, those things that you ultimately feel you need, like to look better, achieve more, become fitter, become stronger, become more valuable, become more whatever it is that you're trying to be. All those noises in your head saying that you're not worthy, that you're not strong enough, that you're not pretty enough, that you're not handsome enough, that you're not whatever enough. So in the beginning phases, it's not so evident. It's been covered up by all the stimulation and the excitement in the beginning. But later on, when you think about all your problems and all the things that you have to achieve in your life, and you look at this person and go, I don't think they can help me with this anymore. I don't think they say, we're not aligned anymore. That's just another way of saying that I expect a person out there to help me achieve inner work that I have to do on my own. It's not really fair on any human being to impose that on them, that they need to help me to get to where I want to go. And you're not in a relationship. You're not in it for the love. Where is the love in this? Love, what is love? Love is unconditional acceptance, is it not? Like you love a child. Then we say, I love you. I'll love you till the day I die. No, you won't. It's conditional love. Why is it conditional love? Because if that person then changes and does something against your beliefs or your framework, you're like, oh, I can't believe they did that. So you don't love them anymore. No. So what kind of love was that? If you love a flower, the flower's love is unconditional until you get bored of the flower and then you chuck it out. But there's no projection of an ego mind in the flower where you say, I love him one day or I love him another day. Like I was saying to one of my clients, wanted to get married. I love her and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. And I say, why? Because she's so kind and she's so sweet and she's so loyal. So I said, is that love or is that a requirement that you placed upon someone because you're afraid of those things happening? I said, all right, here's the case. You get married, she sleeps with the neighbor, just has a one-night affair, comes back to you and say, I'm so sorry, moment of weakness. I'm still the same person, loyal, kind, loving. I adore you. You still love them? And he's a little confused by that. So the qualities that you initially sought in them are still there. But something in your value system was now broken down, which is a legitimate thing. Nobody's saying it's not a terrible thing. So then your views of love have changed. So it's not really love, is it? It's conditional based on you do X, Y, and Z, and then I love you. You don't do X, Y, and Z, I no longer love you. So it's not really love. So in our relationships, we have expectations, we have requirements, we have needs, and we expect this other human being to fulfill them. And it's not fair on them, it's not fair on you either. The work you have to do is to go into yourself and say, why do I need this other human being to do all these things for me? Why can't I do them within myself? And that's the work that most people don't even bother to take on. So they get into another relationship. And it just keeps on going. And they say, no, this one doesn't suit me. You're not supposed to be in a candidacy where every person is running for the Nobel Prize of making you happy, of satisfying your needs. This is not how it is. And then we take that to the bedroom as well, right? I mean, if you look at the bedroom, it's non-existent, actually. I mean, the bed is there. There's not much connection happening other than in the beginning phases in most marriages. There's serious disconnection because we use sex as a tool to get what we want, right? And we have more intercourse in our minds than we do in person. All of it's mind-made these days. It's not actually lived out and practiced in the bed. It's actually in our mind. So we come in with our expectations, our reservations, our insecurities, our requirements, and we put this upon another human being. They need to make us feel this way, and I need to feel this way from this person. That's not really sex, because sex is just intercourse. If you look at two lions getting it on, getting their freak on, you don't look at them and say, oh, I wonder if he feels worthy of her love and if she feels like he is the right person for the job. It's not. It's simply an act, right? And the act shouldn't come with all these other expectations. So when we in the act of lovemaking, I love the word lovemaking. You're not making love. You're not making love. You can't make love anyway. Love is there. You don't make love. You find love in the arms of another, in the heart of another, in the eyes of the other. But what you're looking for is yourself in the eyes of the other. You're hoping that this encounter would make you feel loved, would make you feel worthy, would make you feel manly, would make you feel feminine again. Because you didn't feel that way. So it is an unfulfilled ambition to think that sex is going to complete you in any way. And that's why you have the disappointment. But if it comes down to it, you see in relationships, most of the time, it doesn't actually happen. Man's not interested, can't even have an erection, and the woman sort of turned off, and like too many expectations, all mind-made expectations. So there's not much love making, or love participating, or love tasting, or love encountering, because we don't know what love is. What is love? What is unconditional love? Do you have unconditional love for yourself? Do you accept yourself as you are unconditionally? You don't. And then you impose this on everybody else. Because if you did accept yourself unconditionally as you are, then you'd look around you and what would you see? Nothing but love. Everything that you have an expectation of has disappeared, and all that remains is unconditional love for everything and everyone, including yourself. So then there wouldn't be a need for you to go and make love. You would become love. You would be overflowing with love. And so when you are intimate with another human being, they feel this deep connection with you. It's not in the mind, it's in the body, it's in the heart, it's in the spirit, it's in the soul. All these things that have been disconnected from the bedroom and from the relationship. So the modern day relationship is based on ego, and it's based on selfishness. I want this. They can't give that to me, so I'll move on to somebody else. Because there's no higher goal. The higher goal should not be we both can make money together. Because if you end up being broke, there's no point for you to stay together, right? So the higher goal should be, I want to discover my true self. I want to get to know all the things that piss me off, and all the things that I love, and all the things that make me so special in who I am. And I want to get to know myself better. And then I want to go give to this other person this love I feel within myself, to give them more. And so the two of us together are raising our frequency, our vibrations. We are falling deeper into love by getting to know ourselves better, and then checking in on each other and sharing that love intimately, physically, emotionally. And because you love yourself so much and you're so in love with life, it's not something we learn how to do. I had to go learn all of this myself. Then when you're so fulfilled in yourself and you live in a state of wholeness and completeness and oneness and fulfillment within yourself, you can't get pissed off because they said you didn't wash the dishes. Get up and wash the dishes, for instance, right? or get a dishwasher as another thing. But when the ego comes up and we expect them and they expect us to do this, then we're just living by the level of ego. There is no connection here. It's just like, can they do what I need, and can we do the same for each other? Because it's just about taking. There's no giving. There's no giving. Because if you were so in love and you were so giving, and someone said something to irritate you, you just let that go and say, I love it the way you get angry. Of course, if they're telling you need to stop drinking or doing something stupid, then you listen to them. Stupid in the context of what their requirements are. I'm not saying you become ignorant, but you let things slide. Why? Because you're not so small and so petty and so anal. They must be like this. They can't be like, I can't believe they said that. You just overlook things. Why? Because you're overflowing with love. That's why in the honeymoon phase, you overlook everything. And then later on, you're like, oh, how dare you speak to me like that? About my mother? You know? And of course, the other person doesn't help either, because they're living through their egos. So the whole point is that you go on a journey by yourself or together and find out how to live from love, how to find love within yourself, and then share it with everybody else, including the most intimate person to you who knows you better than anybody else. And remember, most of us know each other from an ego level. What my ego thinks you are and what your ego thinks I am, it's not what we actually are. My wife sent me a beautiful anniversary card, and she said, for the first time this year, this took a while, 17 years, so I've been through it, I actually know you for you instead of know you from me, which I just wept and cried and was overwhelmed, because ultimately that's what we want, right? We want the person to know the real us, the same person that your friends know that like you. But this partner here can't stand your guts because they're looking at it from the level of ego, and from the ego you can never satisfy the person. So what I'm offering is a deep dive into yourself, getting to know yourself, getting to know your dark side, your shadow. The Carl Jung talks about shadow. Let's integrate that. Let's become aware. And it's not easy work, because you just, most of the time, you just project it onto the other person. You're an idiot. You're ugly. You're stupid. They're like that. Thousands of labels. But I'm saying, shine the mirror on you. Let's see what's inside you. Get to know that and accept that, not to refute that and to blame yourself. That's just redundant stuff. We're not here on a journey to, to point fingers at you, but recognize that it's in you. Overcome that, integrate that, allow that, become a complete human being within yourself, and then see the person for what and who they truly are instead of from the ego mind. I highly recommend you do this work, because it's taken me almost 20 years now to find out who I was, and then my wife going on to her journey, and then us discovering ourselves, and then bringing that to clients for years now, and getting to learn so many lessons. And you see the patterns. I see the pattern instantly. I'm like, okay, here we go. And the same thing happens, and you take them through this whole journey. So the whole point is that each of you go onto your own journey. It's not therapy where you sit in and say, well, why didn't you wash the dishes? And that wasn't such a nice thing to do. And don't you think? And then shouldn't you hear apologizing? I'm sorry, I'll do the dishes. And it's all ego. It's all ego. And it's pointless. So go into yourself. Do the work within yourself. Discover everything about yourself. Fall in love with yourself. Fall in love with life. And then see how you can make this other person fall in love with themselves. Not with you, with themselves. Let them fall in love and let them flower. And you create space and awareness and giving with kindness, and watch them flourish as you flourish. And you're surrounded by a bubble, a circle of love. And of course, the children, when they come, or if they have arrived, you don't need to tell them, honey, this is what you should do. They look at you and go, I get it. And they'll make those choices at the right kind of people from that pure place, not the lack that they see in you, in your relationships right now. So I urge you to take this on. It's going to be a deep dive. It's going to be intensive. You're going to be doing a lot of work on yourself, and then checking in if you are with someone, as to how you're doing. And together, you can have tremendous results. On your own, you're going to have surprisingly amazing findings and discoveries. And you're not going to be looking for that same person that your ego thought you wanted. You're going to discover a different side of you entirely. So, very excited about doing this, and I've been waiting for the right time, and I believe now is the time. I've got so much to share with you, and it's made such a difference to my life. So this is first-hand experience. This is not second-hand making stuff up from somewhere else. I deeply have connected to this message, and it's nourished my life, my wife's, my clients, and those that I love. And I'd like to bring that same light to you. So if you're interested, let me know. It's going to be limited group sizes. It's going to be intensive. And then we will go through an entire process. And I'm pretty sure by the end of it, if you don't know what true love for yourself is in the past, you're going to feel it so deeply. And then you're going to say, I'm so sorry. Why did I do this to myself? And a new journey will begin. There's the journey to yourself, and then there's a journey within yourself. Most of us haven't made that journey within ourselves. It's projecting outwards. I urge you to take this on. It's going to be a deep dive. It's going to be intensive. You're going to be doing a lot of work on yourself and then checking in as to how you're doing. If you're interested, get in touch. Let's get started and let's make this the best time of our lives.